Okay, wonderful. Well, let's start out today, guys. I have a quick little video just as a reminder of where we have been. So we'll take it from here.
Welcome to CEMA Summit 24, where innovation meets inspiration. Join industry leaders and visionaries.
Speed is expensive.
As we shape the future of corporate events. Hear from world-class speakers sharing groundbreaking insights.
Be unapologetic of what you invest in.
Explore cutting-edge technologies and solutions. Engage in hands-on workshops and collaborative sessions. Network and celebrate at our unforgettable evening events.
This is my first time at the CEMA conference, and what an experience it's been.
One thing I really love about this event is all the connections I'm making.
From groundbreaking discussions to unforgettable experiences. CEMA Summit is where the future of events comes alive. Thank you to our incredible sponsors for making this possible. Join us next year and be part of something extraordinary. Register now at CEMASummit.com to transform your event strategy.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today here at CEMA Connect. I hope that was a great reminder for all of you. We just a little over 6 weeks ago, we were in Seattle together enjoying an amazing summit. And we have built a lot of momentum and excitement off of Summit. And one of those events is today. My name is Brian Mason, and I'm going to be hosting this webinar with you today. And before we get in, I want to just take a look at the agenda. We've got a few little announcements that we're going to do for CEMA. We're going to introduce you to InGo and Atlassian today. They're going to talk a little bit about Teams 24 and how they partnered together. And then we're going to leave a little time at the end for some discussion and for some Q&A. So please make sure that you're putting questions in the chat or be ready to raise your hand, because we know that peer-to-peer learning and questions and discussion is really how we make the magic happen at CEMA, and we want to make sure that you're involved. Before I go any further, I do want to take the time to say a big thank you, not only to our sponsors today, but to all the people that are attending. I know you probably had another meeting you could have been joining, but you chose to be here with CEMA, and I thank you for that 45 minutes that we're going to take, as well as all the support that you have given CEMA over this past year. Today, we're going to speak to Michael Barnett, the CEO of InGo, as well as Dory Barnett, the Senior Audience Marketing and Engagement Manager from Atlassian. Before we jump into their discussions, I want to remind people of a few things that have been going on. Last week, we were in Las Vegas with Workday Rising Study Tour. We learned a lot about sustainability and how Workday and Workday Rising event specifically really handles sustainability at their events and throughout their corporation. It was a great partnership with LVCVA, with Workday, with GPJ, and it was a really, really great event. And also we were in San Francisco for Dreamforce. We had a networking pop-up event. About 35 people attended at the Marriott Marquis. And it was a great day for us just to kick off that week of Dreamforce and be with our event marketers and have some networking and some conversations with each one. So these events are happening. We've got a lot going on up through the end of the year. And 3 of those events that we have coming are the Aftershock Music Festival Study Tour, October 9th and 10th in Sacramento. The Visit Sacramento team has a great study tour for us at Aftershock. And P.S., we're going to a Warriors and Kings game while we're there. So if you haven't registered, please register as well. Also, November the 19th and 20th, we'll be in Nashville for those of you in the middle of the country for the Country Music Awards. And then we are going to end off the year in Miami, December 4th and 6th at Art Basel, an event that you want to make sure you don't want to miss. All of these events are filling up, so please go to CEMAonline.com and register today for the events. As some of you might have heard, there's a little show called IMAX that's going to take place here in a couple of weeks, and I'm sure many of you will be there. So please make sure that you are joining us at IMAX at two big events that we're having. We are partnering with Caesars and other agency to do a non-alcoholic event, a wellness event called Beyond the Bar. It'll be at the Jimmy Kimmel Comedy Club, Wednesday, October 9th. There's a QR code up there in the corner. Please make sure that you are registering for that event today to be a part of this one-of-a-kind of experience. As well as we will have a networking event at the CEMA and PCMA booth on October 8th from 3 to 5 p.m. So I know you have a lot of plans during IMAX, but please stop by, have a drink with us, say hello, and meet the people. Lastly, we have 3 events at the end of October, the beginning of November, and this is part of our thought leadership series. This will have a focus of AI. We'll be in San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Austin. You can register at CEMA Online as well. And the 2 events that we're going to have there are 2 of the most popular events or popular breakout sessions that we had at Summit. We're bringing back Kristen Koning and Kaylee Dagan from Ring Central to bring you harnessing AI for pre and post-event content creation. And from Impact XM, we will have Caitlin Hunter giving you the workshop of artificial and emotional intelligence, fusing human and AI superpowers to supercharge creativity. So 3 great events that we have coming. We are excited to bring everyone together and continue building out regional events in your area. These thought leadership events are open to CEMA members and non-CEMA members, so please share registration codes with friends that might be in the area that want to attend those events. All right. So now we're going to go to why we were all here. And let me introduce you, Michael Barnett. Hello, Michael. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Brian. Good to see you. Exciting
see you.
calendar you got coming up.
Thank
Nonstop.
you. We have a lot of stuff going on, and 2025 looks to be just as amazing. So we're going to be releasing some of it as well soon.
I think, Brian, coming from Salesforce, your goal is what, to have more events at CEMA than you did at Salesforce? Is that the plan?
Exactly. We've got a high bar to reach for sure.
Yeah.
So, Michael, tell me, you and I have got to know each other over the past year. Tell everybody that's on the call today a little bit about InGo and kind of a partnership that we've created.
Yeah, happy to. Should I do the screen share or?
Yeah, go ahead.
Cool. Yeah, I think one of the conversations we were having before this was what are the challenges organizers are facing right now? And there's sort of the always problem, which is, right, I got bigger goals and smaller budget. Yep. But then on top of that, right, I've got the problem of marketing's more and more inundated than ever. And increasingly registrants are coming in later, meaning I'm more worried about leakage, right? I think you were commenting on how that's become a bigger and bigger issue for a lot of the CEMA members, if I recall.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're seeing more and more of that as people are building out their events, finding those things.
Yeah, and so right, ultimately, what we wanted to talk about and what we've been thrilled to get to work with CEMA and now PCMA and also Atlassian on is, right, how do you reach those bigger goals, that target audience, and those goals? And I think one of the things that is really exciting about this conversation is clearly you're investing heavily, CEMA's investing heavily, PCMA's investing heavily in your community, your audience. But then the same thing's true for Atlassian. This is really, I'm excited to have this conversation with Dory because Atlassian thinks really hard about how do you build amazing communities? How do you empower people, right? Their whole focus is empowering teams to change the world, to make the world better. And they embody that in the event really nicely. So to give context for the InGo piece of this conversation before we jump in with Dory, most of you know this man, Julius Solaris, founder Bold Push, also been involved in several startups and event tech companies. If you don't follow him, he's a great follow. And instead of really thinking about him too much, he's great, but instead of thinking about him, think about the target audience person you want to acquire for your events. Think about that person that's a CEO, has a big budget, procurement somewhere that would just be an amazing addition to your event. And the challenge you probably run into is getting through to that person, right? So that's sort of the PCMA CEMA challenge, right? How would you get Julius to CEMA Summit, especially given that email's inundated, emails not reaching people, and ads are expensive. But then on top of all of that, how do you get people to believe? Like, let's say the message gets through to Julius. How do you convince Julius that it's true that there's amazing people going to your event? How do you convince Julius that it's true that the right people, the buyers and whatnot, are there? And fortunately, we know the answer because Julius shared it on stage. He saw post after post after post of event leaders talking about how they're going to CEMA Summit. And this is a real social scroll. Brian, wonderfully enough, is there at the top. Erica Brunke, Angie Smith in there, Darcy, right? So wonderful people posting about CEMA Summit, getting their connections to click through and go. And I imagine a lot of you think, well, I've got an amazing audience. I've got an amazing community. Why don't they already invite their connections? Why don't they already bring all the right people? And you might even be thinking they do post at least during the event. They do post a lot during the event. The one problem with that is it's too late to acquire those connections and it's 12 months from the next event. And so we've done some work on the research here of why people don't post, even though they love the event, even though they're excited. And I mean, if you're Atlassian, right, you've got these really committed community members, these community leaders, you've got great thought leaders, you've got all these great people. And the answer is first, content's hard. We've all sat down to write something and ran into the writer's block. There's perception fears, right? How are people gonna receive this? Am I gonna look like I'm bragging that I'm speaking? So that's Kellogg School. And then 29% of people say, I'm just too busy, right? Even if I can solve those first two things, like it's just too busy. So what InGo does, we go, all right, busy, let's make it one click. It can't be more than, like, it can't be like 10 clicks, 5 clicks. I can't copy and paste things. Perception fears, right? You got to give people a leaderboard that says other amazing leaders in the industry are doing this. You should do it as well. You want to make sure people are well incentivized, right? Not like a $5 Starbucks gift card like some platforms do. That's not going to get the CEO of Waze or the CMO of IBM like we've had use InGo. What we've done is we've partnered with a bunch of nonprofits and charities to say, your top advocates, the people that bring the most to your event, they can donate to their favorite charities. And so that becomes a big motive for senior execs in a way that very few other things would. And then last but not least, and we'll get into all the amazing things that Atlassian's doing, it's not their job, right? A person that's attending the event doesn't always think about bringing people to the event as their job or showing off the event as their job. But the truth is that it's everybody's job to grow the company's brand, grow their personal brand, reconnect with people, develop their network, get meetings. And so if you can make it clear that they're accomplishing that by celebrating CEMA Summit, showing off Atlassian teams, you can get them on board and align those goals. And so ultimately, that's how we get 10 times more people to post than anybody else. That's ultimately how we get just incredible registration growth rates. And CEMA's numbers were incredible. 69% of people posted, and on average, everybody got 10 of their connections to click through and come to the CEMA reg page, and a ton of them registered. CEMA grew a ton. It was great. And last but not least, before we jump into the meat of it, if we are 250 trees away from 50,000 trees planted. So 2 years ago, we started this campaign of planting 10,000 trees. We got to like 20,000 that year, which we were really thrilled about. And now we're real close to getting to 250 or 50,000. If you want to help us in this effort, scan the QR code. You get to try it and go and plant a bunch of trees at the same time. And next week we're gonna put out a post about all the people who have planted the trees, and you can go in and actually see who's done it, and you can see where the trees are and everything else. It's pretty cool.
Can you go back a slide?
Yes.
Because I think there's something there. 69% adoption rate. That is pretty awesome. I mean, and it was a great tool for us to really increase our attendees at Summit. So, I mean, I think you put that down there as a little note, but I really want to call that out because it really helped us in building that Summit attendee list. And I think it's a really great a data fact that you should call out there. So just wanted to bring that out to you guys.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate that. Yeah, that means a lot. I think that one of the things that this relies on fundamentally is the fact that CEMA has a great community. CEMA has people that really believe in it. And the same thing's true for Atlassian. That's why I really get excited to get to talk to Dory about this, that if you've got this great community, you have this amazing resource, this amazing, like, that have all the connections you could ever want to reach. And so I think, without further ado, Dory, good to see you. How are you doing?
Good to see you as well. Doing well. Glad to be here.
Yeah, really excited to be here as well. So I'd love to hear your thought. You've got these, I think one of the things that stood out in our earlier conversation, and that maybe just introduce everybody on, I know Team pretty well now, but give everybody a little context. How big is Team? Where is it? Who comes?
Yeah, well, Michael, now I have to ask which one, because now we have two teams. No, so Atlassian has two flagship conferences now. We have one in Las Vegas that is actually going to be in Anaheim in 25. That's our US summit, and it's amazing. It's upwards of 5,000 people now. And then we just launched our inaugural Team Europe. So it's our flagship event happening for our European market, and it is in 2 weeks. So glad to be here. Maybe have less hair than I did 3 months ago, but it should have upwards of maybe around 2,000 people for our first go there.
Yeah, we should all give Dory a big round of applause for being here. She's really taking the time. We all have been 2 weeks out from an event, so thank you so much.
Yeah.
I've been always impressed when I come to Team. You guys do a great job of aligning your corporate brand with the event, with the mission, like, and Atlassian really lives the mission. You want to give us a little context of the Atlassian mission and how you bring that into the event? Because it really, it gives the fuel for amazing referrals and an amazing community.
Yeah, absolutely. If I could summarize, I would say the goal of, Atlassian's mission is to unleash the potential of every team. And so what we do is we build software products that make it possible for every team to work in any way that they need to ship products, to ship software, to deliver great services, to ship really great marketing campaigns, whatever it is you do. Our software kind of enables you to do that on Teams. And then I would have to give just incredible props to our brand team. They do a really excellent job of integrating the brand and the mission and the tone and everything throughout into the event. But I do think if you were to ask anyone who's been to a team event what makes Team special, they would 1,000% tell you that it's the people. There's no one in the world like Atlassian customers. They treat our product team and like our founders and our executives as like rock stars. Like it's unlike anything I've ever seen. They're fangirls, and yeah, we have a really great community. It's literally called the Atlassian community. You don't even have to be a customer to join the Atlassian community. You just create an account, although ideally you are. And our Atlassian community is full of community leaders. So it's people who not only use our products, but love them so much that they want to advocate for them. In their free time, they want to grab a beer and talk about the joys of Jira, or they want to talk about how you use Confluence to just like revolutionize whatever it is you do. So they're really great, and they're super passionate, and they're what make Team the event that it is, for sure.
Yeah, and so I think to your point, you've got these community members and you've got that Atlassian community. How do you think of, like, what do you do to empower those community leaders? What do you do to make them feel like they're really part of a community as opposed to just, I think we've all used software, we've all been part of orgs that sort of, knight you as a member, give you some sort of honorific, but then it doesn't feel any different than just being a normal customer or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the big thing is, so we have a dedicated internal Atlassian team that is just dedicated to the community. So building the community, helping the community. The community really is our first line of like, if we want to test something and we've already internally dog fooded it, then community is like our next line of defense. They're on the ground, they're doing the jobs of like our main personas. They're incredibly vocal and like no hold. It's a very very open company, no BS. They will give it to you straight. They'll tell you this was the stupidest thing you guys have ever launched, and we needed 6 other features before that one. So I would say internally the company is very dedicated to helping the community feel part of the team. How we empower them from an event perspective is the same. So we really work super coordinatedly, that's a word, with our community team internally at Atlassian to say, like, we're doing this event. What is your community presence? What are you going to be doing on site? What are your OKRs for the community? What do your community leaders want to get out of being on site? And a lot of times what the community leaders want is they want to be seen as thought leaders, or they want to advance their own careers. They want to do a talk track. And so from an event perspective, we really try to partner with them. We try to source sessions from them. And then from a marketing perspective, we treat them as an extension of our team. So we give them early access to information. Them and our sales team are usually the first to know the keynote speaker. They're usually the first to know the session agenda builder is live. We tend to let them leak big information if there's anything fun, so that their local chapter members really see them as the authority on what's happening at Atlassian. And we listen to them. I think that's the biggest thing. We really value the feedback loop that we have with our community members. So if they're telling us, hey, that event was at a bad time. Like we hosted an event in Berlin in, I think, December. And every one of our community members was like, what were you thinking? Like people in Berlin don't want to be in Berlin in December. And so it's stuff like that when we get to the end of a program, community leader voices are some of the most important voices that we hear.
One of the things that really shines through, and this is just more a thing I really appreciate, is that you can tell Atlassian has a culture that appreciates realizing when you make a mistake and learning from it. Like just that last comment of like most companies, or a lot of companies, you would make that kind of mistake and people would be like, never mention that again. But the fact that like you know it, you internalize it, and then you build processes right around learning from your community and engaging them that give you that ability to then not make that kind of mistake in the future. So yeah. Give an example of like what does that empowerment look like? Like, so I'm a community leader. I get a speaking session. I'm a community leader, and I'd love to hear, I love OKRs also. How do you think about OKRs around them as well?
Yeah, so our community team has their very own OKRs that they march towards. A lot of that has to do with engaging and growing our community. I would say, like, one really practical example that we do is we provide our community leaders a toolkit that is always in their hands before the event launches. So we're giving them access to messaging, value props of the event, location, date, info, comp codes that they can share out as soon as registration goes live. We're also this for Team Europe, which is happening in 2 weeks. One of the really fun things we did was we wanted to see more engagement with our agenda builder. We really wanted to see how people were engaging with the sessions, what kind of job titles were engaging with which sessions. And so we had our community, our dedicated internal person, hand select basically the 5 main personas we have for this event, select a community leader that holds that job title. And then we did a workshop with them where they came in, they got early access to the agenda builder, and we just worked through it with them. And we just asked for their honest feedback. And out of that, we got some really good information about that's at a really weird time, or this doesn't leave enough room for me to do brain dates, or this kind of schedule is really focused on technical roles, but I'm a marketer and I don't know what to get out of this. And so it helps us kind of in the moment clarify and then take back to our content ops team, take back to our content team. And then out of that, we actually, our tech team actually built some like recommended agendas based on those community leaders. Then we gave those links to community leaders and we said, go forth, show everyone how smart and impressive you are and how cool Atlassian thinks you are, which then helps them move towards their goal individually of being seen as a thought leader. So I think I guess if I could say that in a sentence, it's really understanding what drives them and then what you need from them and delivering something that's mutually beneficial.
I mean, this sounds amazing. I think that it's funny because I've obviously been to Teams now a few times and I've really enjoyed it. And it's fun to hear how it actually gets made because it makes more sense now that I get to hear this. So, but tell me, in a lot of ways, I would imagine if I'm one of the other participants here and I haven't seen it and I don't really get it. It sounds like very nice, but something that I probably can't afford, and I don't know how it lines up to my bigger goals. Like, tell us about how this actually lines up to what you want to achieve and like accomplishing the mission at Teams in terms of getting the right attendees in the room, getting the right people into the room, and like what's the bigger impact of all of this investment?
Well, I mean, I would assume most of us are in events. So the bottom line for us, right, is we're delivering pipeline. Like we're measured against delivering the right people in the right rooms at the right time. Um, for us, the way that we do that through community, and then I would say just broadly through referral marketing, is one of the things we really look at is how are we getting the right people in the right room at the right time? For us, I would say there's a couple of main channels that we focus on. Community is one of them. And it is, if you have the luxury of having a community that's super dedicated, then by all means go and empower and enable them to be your advocates. To use a tool like InGo, one of the things that we think about a lot is for our speakers. Generally, right, a speaker is a thought leader in their network. Generally, they are going to have a good following on LinkedIn or on Twitter. So it's really enabling and empowering them to say, hey, you actually have access to the people that we want in the room. And I think thinking more long term, what we're trying to do is reach the right people, knowing that if we can get them to attend an event, right, they're more likely to engage with our product in a way that is beneficial for them. They're less likely to churn. They're more likely to expand or upsell. A lot of that's getting the right salespeople in the room. Yeah. Sorry, Michael, I don't know if I answered your question, but that's, I think broadly, right. We're trying to drive pipeline. That's our goal.
Yeah, I think it's super helpful. So, right, the goal, which I totally makes sense, pipeline, you're empowering community leaders that are going to be your speakers, are often going to be, I assume, buyers
always
at the
customer.
same time, right? Like if I'm following all this correctly, just to make sure, you're sort of knighting your buyer, giving them a title, empowering them, and in all of that, they become a better buyer, effectively, right? Like,
Yeah,
and
and
so,
a big part of the belief of the Atlassian community, right, is that if you join our community, if you engage in our community posts or with our community leaders in a community roundtable, so our community leaders are also empowered to host their own events. As an Atlassian customer, if you engage in the community, they've got some really impressive stats that you're like, I have to make it up right now, but you're like X times more likely to engage regularly and in the right ways. You're more likely to have a higher lifetime value. You're less likely to churn by like an insane amount. And I think the reality is, as a marketer, I'd like to think I know what our customers want. But when I talk to a community leader who is a Jira admin at an enterprise company, they can tell me a lot more effectively what kind of content product admins at enterprise companies actually want to hear. And it's a subset, like any anecdotal data point, but generally it's a really powerful one. And generally they've been having meetups with other Jira admins and they talk about this stuff. They're really informed because they're on the ground. So it's a reliable and scalable way to really empower the community.
it feels like it'd be significantly different. Like your experience feels like it'd be significantly different than a lot of event marketers where there's no engagement, there or very little engagement for 6-9 months of the year. And then suddenly you're just sort of spamming, maybe not spam, but you're emailing and messaging and advertising and just hoping people show up. Right. Like talk to us about that difference of experience versus like if you just didn't engage any of these people for 9 months.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think Atlassian is unique in so many ways. I think one of the great things about Atlassian is that it was a startup and now it's a giant enterprise company, but there was a lot of room in between where these smaller events that I think we could call them roadshow type events, we didn't always have a 5,000 person team summit. Last year, I think it was 4,000, and 10 years ago, I think it was 700.
You didn't always have Ted Lasso speaking?
Not always have Ted Lasso. No, I try to remember who the first speaker was. I don't know. I'll look it up, Michael. I'll get back to you on it. But it was not Ted Lasso. For anybody that's in Europe, if you want to come see Arsene Wegener, he's speaking at Team Europe.
Wow.
So any soccer fans out
Well
there, we have
then.
a real soccer theme going. But I do think one of the really important things about building the community, and if I could observe something about the Atlassian community, it is that it is a company value that these customers on the ground that are using our products have the loudest voice at the table. The reason that we empower our community leaders to do community events and why Atlassian is not trying to come into every city where we have a population of customers and lead events is because you've probably all been to an event where you're like, I don't want to talk to the salespeople. I don't want to talk to anyone at this company. What I want to do is I want to talk to another event marketer about what it's like to be an event marketer and live my life and do my things. By, I guess, engaging more than just our flagship event, what that does is it builds momentum, it builds an appetite, and then again, they have a source of truth that's not Atlassian. They have someone saying to them, there is actually so much value for you if you want to advance your career and coming to Team. And here's why. And it's not just the value props you see on the website of advance your career, hear the latest AI announcements. Like that's important. That's super important. But what really sells them, and I think, Michael, the whole premise of InGo is that the reason that you're going to take 3 days off work and travel to Barcelona is because you heard someone say it's worth your time. Someone that you trust, someone that you know understands your job. Because, Michael, you can tell me all day that InGo is amazing, but until I hear it from somebody who does the job that I do and understands the intricacies of my work, it's kind of just noise.
Yeah, great tie-in. So tell us a little bit about how InGo does fit into that community and getting people to announce and whatnot, if you don't mind. I'd love to hear your take on it.
Absolutely. So InGo is our dedicated referral marketing tool. I had the pleasure of building the referral marketing program in partnership with InGo, some really great stakeholders at Atlassian, and I think we've only been at it for maybe 2 years. I would say we look at all of our channels that we can do referral marketing through, and for us, that is community, that is speakers, that is employees, that is sales, and that is our channel partners. So one thing that happened even before I was at Atlassian is that those teams, those people were always given promotional toolkits, which if you've ever, I don't know, sponsored an event, you've probably received. They generally suck and they're not super helpful and the graphics are interesting. And so you're just not as likely to share them. And so anyway, now instead of giving them just a toolkit that has information that's like, here, now you go build your own stuff, what we have started to do is before we provide them with a toolkit, we give them an InGo share link. And we say, hey, get this out. We're working on your toolkit, your email templates, your other assets. Here is this. And then throughout the promotional cycle, we'll run incentives internally. And to your point earlier, I think it was in one of your slides, Michael, it is not someone on the PMM at the product marketing team's job to drive acquisition for events. That's my job. So if I'm going to go to our head of product AI and I'm going to say, hey, I need you to do a social post, she doesn't have time to do a social post and she doesn't have time to think about formatting it. If I reach out to her and I say, hey, here's a one-click share link, can you please post this tomorrow? Done. Like she doesn't even have to think about it. It says what we wanted it to say. It's coming from a voice that people trust. And like, I don't know, it's another thing of like, our head of product AI is not going to post something if she doesn't think it's true. She's going to tweak it if she wants to, but it's a starting point for her. So we use it through, I would say, those 5 channels primarily. And then we multiple times throughout an event cycle like Team or Team Europe, where it's a bigger program, the whole company's kind of bought in. We'll do internal employee incentives where we say, share once, be entered for a chance to win a gift card. Or, I don't know, you could do a day off work if your budgets are tight.
I love it. It's funny because hearing you talk about it, it's funny because we get to talk every once in a while, but one of the things you inspired was there should be like the leaderboard for the Atlassian team in InGo. So you just go in and see which of the Atlassian and people in particular are doing the most to drive growth and
particularly effective for our sales team because it's they love a little friendly competition, and so does our product team. Actually, they love to know that their posts are getting action.
Really? Why? Why do you think that is?
Well, for salespeople, I don't know if I have to answer that one. For our product team,
oh yeah, I mean,
no, for our product team, they're all deeply competitive. They're also really playful, so they just like friendly competition. So we'll say, you know, hey, so-and-so, your post got way more traction, but so-and-so's on your tail, it better post again. Things like that. And then we've also tested out with what we call internally, I don't know the actual term for it. We call it a social blitz, where we'll have like our founder will have Mike Cannon-Brooks do an InGo post, and then we'll have the entire company engage with it and share it, comment, like, to get a lot of traction behind one post. And then it's really fascinating to see the spread effect of that, like how it then, yeah, those are really fun and usually doesn't require any budget because if Mike Cannon-Brooks asks you to do something, you do it. So
It's funny you mentioned that. One of the things we've noticed is that for a bunch of events we're involved in, the email goes out, like that InGo automated email goes out to say, hey, you should post. And people then start replying back to the organizer, like somebody like yourself, saying, hey, where's my version of this post? Or how do I get this post? And how do I do this? And it's one of those funny things. It's like, well, it's in your inbox. And they go, oh, that's what that does? Great.
yeah.
So I always love when that happens. And they find out that they also get to like make a donation, and it really goes, people go nuts over it. So
well, and Brian, if I could bring it back to CEMA, because CEMA was an incredible event. My personal favorite session at CEMA was when Art Basel did how brands become cultural movements, was that it was, or how events become cultural moments. That was one of the things that they really talked about, is like the way that your event becomes more than an event or like a moment in time for culture is that it is referral. It is the conversation and buzz that you generate in your community around the event at more than just the time of the event. Which I think that was super impactful for me to hear, because I think as event marketers, we all see events like Dreamforce or Inbound or South by Southwest, and they've become these monster cultural moments. But at one point they weren't. At one point they were product conferences, or they were like, I don't know, you guys have used Salesforce. I'm sure it's not that exciting. Like, it's actually not that fun. Einstein's just so, but it's, I think the way you do that is that your community does that on your behalf. But you have to give them the tools.
And I think that's the key, the community right there. That is the key that I've heard all through this. And I think the key that we hear is that community really is the driver. And building that, people want to belong to a community. And when they see other people that are, posting that they're together or they're there, they want to know what that's about. And it encourages them to take action as well. Michael and Dory, thank you so much. This was awesome today. We sure appreciate it. I want to open it up. Is there people have questions that are out there in the chat? I don't have any specific ones. How about anyone?
I'll say one thing real quick, just because I hope it came across everybody, but I just love how seamless community and events are for both of your organizations. That like, there's no really distinguishing the two things. Like, well, of course we have a community, and of course we have an event for that community. And I think the more that events realize that it's really about leading a community, it's about bringing that community together, the more value you capture out of it as well. I love your point. I'd love to see, at some point we should do some data on the retention rates and those, like that, all of that. I mean, for a SaaS company, retention's life. So if an event really does become a driver for that, which I absolutely believe, people should really think about events more deeply as overall revenue drivers and overall growth drivers. Oh yeah. Yeah, we've got some exciting data on that. We'd love to share sometime.
Well, we will look for some more data and share that out with everyone. Thank you guys so much for being here today. It was awesome. We loved being part of it and loved having you join us. So thank you so much. Thank everyone for being here today. Before we go, I want to make one last announcement. Our next Connect will be October 24th when we bring Impact XM. And the Sunbelt Rentals Company that will come in and tell us how their event Powerhouse, the first time they did it in 6 years, which is amazing to me, building a community and the first time you do a live event in 6 years. They had some really interesting challenges that they overcome, and we're anxious to hear about how that took place. So thank you all for being a part of this. We loved it. We will see you at one of the events coming up. We have several of them. So have a great weekend, everyone. Again, and we'll post this on the website so you can share it for those that weren't able to attend today. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you
Have
so
a
much,
great
Brian.
day.
Thank you so much, Dory.
Thank
you
you
all.
guys.
Wonderful to see
Appreciate
you.
it.
Loved it.